Okay, so we'll resume with our regular board meeting, and we'll start with motions. Trustee Cheney?
Motion to accept the proposal and authorize the mayor to enter into a one-year contract at a total cost of $4,269 with Airmatic of Carlstadt, New Jersey, to provide a preventive maintenance plan on the compressed air system at the Village of Warwick Micro Water Treatment Plant located at 30 Memorial Park Drive, as per the recommendation of Water System Operator Keith Herbert and DPW Supervisor Mike Moser. Funds are appropriated in Budget Code F-8330-4500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution creating broadband task force committee. Whereas the Village of Warwick recently enacted a comprehensive plan update, and whereas the comprehensive plan update contains provisions regarding community character and infrastructure improvements within the village, and whereas it is appropriate for the village board to consider the issue of broadband service and infrastructure improvements within the village in light of the provisions of the comprehensive plan update, and whereas in order to assist the village board in this task, it would be helpful to create a broadband task force committee. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that the village board hereby creates a broadband task force committee. And 2, the mission of the broadband task force committee shall be to consider issues pertaining to broadband service, both from the perspective of improving internet service within the village and from the perspective of avoiding aesthetic harm to community character from installation of broadband infrastructure, and to render a report to the village board making recommendations regarding the same. And 3, that the broadband task force committee shall be governed by and shall operate under the attached rules and regulations. And 4, that the chairman of the broadband task force committee shall be a village board member, and that the committee shall consist of such members as the village board may appoint. 5, that all members of the broadband task force committee shall serve as volunteers without compensation. And 6, that the term of office for all members of the committee shall be 1 calendar year commencing on January 1st. The terms of office of all committee members appointed in 2023 shall expire at midnight on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Quick discussion.
Yes.
One thing I was wondering about is for the first, so let's say we get people going like August, September, and then their term expires December 31st. So that means we would have to either identify that person to serve, those people to serve for 2 years, or we have to find double the amount.
No, at your December meeting, you would just reappoint whoever it is you wanted to reappoint. The first meeting in December.
Okay.
I based them on a calendar year rather than the village year. You normally would do it at a rework meeting.
Right,
But you don't
that's
want it
what
to
I
go
was-
until May. I just did calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. It's less confusing because reorg has a lot of other bells and whistles, so it would be
A calendar
a
year.
calendar
then.
year thing.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the report is rendered, you can disband these task forces by resolution whenever you want. If it comes in and they're done with it, you thank them and they're done with it. If they need more time after the end of December into January, then at the January meeting or, like I said, at the end of December, you reappoint them and that's that.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
Okay, so
Great.
we have, go ahead.
Sorry, Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kolar?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
3, resolution creating inclusion task force committee. Whereas the Village of Warwick is committed to engaging and dialoguing with all its residents to better serve the people of the Village of Warwick, and whereas the task of determining how to best open lines of communication is a complex matter which requires substantial thought and outreach effort, and whereas in order to assist the village board in the task of improving engagement and inclusion of all village residents in governance of the village, it would be helpful to create an inclusion task force committee. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that the village board hereby creates an exclusion task force committee, and 2, the mission of the inclusion task force committee shall be to research and propose potential outreach programs to residents and to render a report to the village board making recommendations regarding the same. And 3, that the Inclusion Task Force Committee shall be governed by and shall operate under the attached rules and regulations. And 4, that the chairman of the Inclusion Task Force Committee shall be a village board member, and that the committee shall consist of such members as the village board may appoint. And 5, that all members of the Inclusion Task Force Committee shall serve as volunteers without compensation. And 6, that the term of office for all members of the committee shall be 1 calendar year commencing on January 1st. The terms of office for all committee members appointed in 2023 shall expire at midnight on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Quick discussion?
Sure.
So Mary is going to be the liaison to the Inclusion Task Force. Can someone remind me who would be the liaison to the Broadband Task Force?
I don't think we decided that because it was going to be further down the,
Right, so that was a question if we decided to kind of have the Broadband Task Force be sooner.
yeah. So we can, I mean, we can figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
So,
Trustee Cheatham?
yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
4, resolution creating Transportation Task Force Committee. Whereas the Village of Warwick recently enacted a comprehensive plan update, and whereas the comprehensive plan update contains provisions regarding improvement of the village streets, mobility, and general accessibility within the village, and whereas it is appropriate for the village board to consider potential transportation improvements and projects within the village in light of the provisions of the comprehensive plan update, and whereas in order to assist the village board in this task, it would be helpful to create a transportation task force committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows. 1, that the village board hereby creates a transportation task force committee. And 2, the mission of the transportation task force committee shall be to consider potential transportation improvements and projects which the village might pursue in light of the provisions of the comprehensive plan update, and to render a report to the village board making recommendations regarding the same. And 3, that the Transportation Task Force Committee shall be governed by and shall operate under the attached rules and regulations. And 4, that the chairman of the Transportation Task Force Committee shall be a village board member, and the committee shall consist of such members as the village board may appoint. And 5, that all members of the Transportation Task Force Committee shall serve as volunteers without compensation. And 6, that the terms of office for all members of the committee shall be 1 calendar year commencing on January 1st. The terms of office for all committee members appointed in 2023 shall expire at midnight on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
I almost called you Mayor Clark.
5, resolution creating zoning task force committee. Whereas the Village of Warwick recently enacted a comprehensive plan update, and whereas it is appropriate for the village to examine its zoning code in light of the terms and provisions of the comprehensive plan update to determine if amendments and revisions to the zoning code should be made to keep it consistent with the provisions of the village's comprehensive plan. And whereas in order to assist the village board in the task of examining the village's zoning code in light of the terms and provisions of the comprehensive plan update, it would be helpful to create a zoning task force committee. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that the village board hereby creates a zoning task force committee. And 2, the mission of the zoning task force committee shall be to examine and to render to examine the village's zoning code in light of the terms and provisions of the comprehensive plan update, and to render a report to the village board making recommendations as to what changes, if any, should be made to the zoning code consistent with the provisions of the village's comprehensive plan. And 3, that the zoning task force committee shall be governed by and shall operate under the attached rules and regulations. And 4, that the chairman of the zoning task force committee shall be a village board member, and that the committee shall consist of such members as the village board may appoint. And 5, that all members of the zoning task force committee shall serve as volunteers without compensation. And 6, that the term of office for all members of the committee shall be 1 calendar year commencing on January 1st. The terms of office of all committee members appointed in 2023 shall expire at midnight on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Motion to grant permission to Village of Warwick employee Jennifer Manti to carry over 3 vacation days.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Tom?
We're gonna table this?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yes, okay, we'll be tabling motion number 7. And we'll move, well, we have an addendum,
Yep,
Yes.
that's me, right?
yes.
Motion to accept the federal fiscal year 2022 bipartisan infrastructure law lead service line replacement, BILSLSLR, funding through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for the Village of Warwick's lead service line inventory project in the amount of $575,770, and to authorize the mayor to sign the acknowledgement and acceptance of the BILSLR funding award.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, onward to reports. Barry, do you have a report tonight?
Nothing other than the one good thing that the rain has brought us is full reservoirs, so, that is a good thing in the middle of July.
And we're very lucky that we did not have
Yes.
the damages that have occurred throughout the rest of our county. Yeah. Carly?
Nothing to report tonight.
Okay.
Well, what about the Safe Streets for All submission?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, what about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us.
That was submitted. Yes, so we did submit a funding application for the Safe Streets for All federal grant program. We're very excited to have that off of our desks. We will find out either in October or December, depending on, because they're gonna make the announcements in 2 waves. So we'll
Well-
be very excited if we get that.
Well, thank you to you and Tom. I mean, you did an
Yeah,
extraordinary amount of
tremendous
work.
Everybody contributed. Barry and our wonderful intern supported the development of the cost estimates for the sidewalk improvements, and Mary supported some of the scoping. We didn't actually include the dial-a-bus in this, but we're gonna do the other things, so Mary was involved in that. Obviously, Raina in her office with the letters of support, which were fantastic, and the mayor contributed as well, and then obviously Tom with the support in writing the application, so it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Truly
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, great work,
Yeah,
Carly.
great
Seriously.
work.
Great work.
Mary, do you have something?
I do. I have a few things. On behalf of the Historical Society of the Town of Warwick, this Saturday, July 22nd, is their annual George Washington 5K. That is from 8:30 to 11 a.m. You can still register if you want to. And for everyone to know, the roads will be closed and blocked off from 8:30 probably till noon. The 5K route, it begins and ends in Veterans Memorial Park, and the starting point goes to Forester, High Street, South Street, Parkway, Forester, McFarland, Hudson, Longhouse, Ask, Cropsey, Bridge, White Oak. So just if you're out and about early Saturday morning, you're aware of what's going on. And then from noon to 3 p.m., the Historical Society will be offering tours of their properties. So don't miss that. The Senior Citizen Picnic, annual senior picnic, will be on Tuesday, August 2nd, with a rain date of August 23rd. In other news, an update on our Slow Down Warwick campaign. Slow Down Warwick campaign is something that we've been discussing. So it is an effort to promote driver and pedestrian safety and attention to build a safety culture in the Village of Warwick. So we plan on rolling this out end of August. Bless you. Bless you.
Excuse me.
End of August, beginning of September, to go right along with back to school and when our busy season is with driving and pedestrians. We met with Melissa Shaw Smith to go over the prospect of painting in crosswalks to make that slow zones And other ideas we had were, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we have 3 areas we want to focus on. It's the crosswalk on Galloway. It's not Park Ave, what is it? And then the crosswalk on West Street that goes to Wheeler Ave. And the other options are the top of South Street and High Street, which there's 2 crosswalks there, or the intersection at Wheeler, Cherry, and Spring Street. That's a total of 4 crosswalks.
Could we also do, sorry, the key gateways? So like the gateway
So,
at
yeah.
Forester and Galloway, for example.
So the gateways we were talking about doing more of a signage
Okay.
project. So what's going to happen with the crosswalks? Because I know we brought Melissa Shaw Smith in to do something very artistic, but it was discussed at her meeting that the painting on the streets should be sustainable and long lasting, and it was decided that if they're painted in a way that is color blocked or something geometric, it would be much easier to upkeep. So anything that is more artistic or creative would be reserved for signs. And we discussed doing something similar to the yard sign campaign that Warwick Cares did, maybe even doing some sort of contest. But Melissa made a great point, and part of this campaign, we really need a strong narrative and a story to really build it and to really kind of hype it up and get everyone aware of what's going on. So those are some of the things that we have to work on next. And of course, we have to get the village board approval, the ARB approval, the DPW approval, and the police approval before we start painting the crosswalks. But, and then the budget. So that is pretty much all of that. Does anyone have any more questions?
We have some data. If you think about
Yeah.
how you want to, if you decide you want to build a story in part around data.
Okay.
And then the other thought I had was, and the data that we have both are related to speeding, but also kind of the causes of crashes, and like how over 3/4 of the crashes in the village are driver behavior related and inattention related. But then also I just finished this book called Influence, and it was all about scientific studies on social influence and what actually drives behavior. And just as an example, there was a study that was done on how to get people to like reduce their energy consumption. This is just one of the many that they did. And they studied 4 different mechanisms. One was providing information about the benefits of doing that. Another was providing cost savings information. Another one was just like appealing to people's sense of like social responsibility. And then the 4th one was simply showing people how their energy use compared to their neighbors. And the first 3 actually had 0 effect, but the 4th was drove such a massive decrease that's the reason that you see on your energy bills how much you are spending in energy compared to your neighbors. And so that might be something also for us to think about when we think about kind of the messaging.
Interesting.
Yeah, we spoke about a lot of different ways to go at it, either from an emotional or, you know, the risks you have to speeding.
But like
It's
your
fun-
neighbors are going slow. How about, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like something
Yeah.
like that. 'Cause-
Well, what's really funny is after I had that meeting with Melissa, I don't know if anyone saw that photo that was on the Warwick social media groups. It was a deer, like a young buck, like crossing in the crosswalk, right in the crosswalk. And it struck me as so funny because that's kind of what we were talking on the lines of something like even the wildlife crossing the crosswalk or something like that. So it was, we're going in the right direction. That's what I took that as. Okay, and then the other thing I have to discuss is our newsletter. Another thing we've been discussing and discussing and discussing. Obviously, it's going to be bigger than this. This is just a mock-up. I'm going to be reaching out to everyone for content, but I got the final template laid out. I just want to reach out to someone, another printer, for a quote. And then I am confident that next meeting we'll be going over the final proof and get that moving for the middle of August.
How would that be mailed?
There's printing presses that do print and post.
I see, but I mean, as it, where
Well,
where
it's
does the,
actually gonna be 11 by 17.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
this.
like that,
This side.
okay, okay.
I mean, it's not a stamp, it's like a marking or whatever. And then this would be on the other side.
Mhm.
Okay. That is everything I have.
Good,
Thank you.
very good, thank you,
Thank
Mary.
you. May you pass that around? You know?
Yeah, I need a little, I forgot my loop.
Cool. Okay, we'll
We're
see.
just looking at design, we're not looking at copy or spelling.
Yeah.
Or spelling. Tom?
No report.
Okay. Council? I have no report this evening. And we have done our executive session, so can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Just a moment, I'll stop the live stream.
Do you want to take these? Oh, no, that's mine.
No, it's okay.
Do you want these back?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to look at this? What is it?